A lot of people get a dehydrator but never end up really using it, even though their utility far exceeds many other pieces of equipment in your kitchen. I mean, what other appliance in your kitchen allows you to preserve food without refrigeration? Yes, you're a pressure canner, but this is not a canning video. Or save you serious money by completely eliminating food waste. Help you make homemade baby food? Make lightweight food for camping, or bulk up your emergency food supply when the power goes out. Certainly ain't your air fryer. Better yet, dehydrated ingredients can save you some serious time in the kitchen because you're already working with fully cooked foods or things that just need rehydrating. So if you need to blow the dust off your dehydrator or you're considering getting one, you'll be pleased to know that this video is part of a collab hosted by the Canning Nana. You can tell by her name she's a woman that's got her priorities right. Canning and kids. But the canners in this collab, and maybe you know her as Diane, and she is food in jars obsessed. That's a compliment. We're sharing 10 things that will absolutely dehydrate again and 5 things that we won't, so that you get plenty of ideas. If this is our first time meeting, hi, I'm Cassandra from the blog becomingafarmgirl.com. I'm here to help you start canning and preserving your own ingredients right at home and share ways to use your home can pantry and meals your family will love. All right, let's start with what I will absolutely dehydrate again. So first up we have ground beef. Y'all know I feel some kind of way about my ground beef. I will never be without it again. Now, if you or a family member is a little hesitant about eating dry ground beef, I get it. So I remember the first time that my husband saw me putting some ground beef crumbles into the dehydrator. And he said, I don't think I'm gonna like that, babe. To which I said, why didn't you tell me when we had it in the spaghetti last Wednesday and in the tacos last night? Well, honey, that was the last I heard of that, because it is extremely hard to discern the difference between freshly cooked ground beef and rehydrated ground beef. All right, take your best guess. Which one is from dehydrated meat and which one is from raw? I'll wait. I told you it's pretty darn hard to tell the difference. Let me show you a real-time comparison using fresh ground beef and rehydrated. While I'm using a glass jar to demonstrate, you'll just dump your dry crumbles into a bowl and cover with hot water and put a plate on top for several minutes. You'll start to see things perk up pretty quickly. Now let's cook the fresh ground beef on the stove. What I love about dehydrated beef is that the method I use keeps its chew and tenderness. I can use as much or as little beef as I need, which means none of it goes to waste. It doesn't take up freezer space, and in a bit I'll show you how I love to pack my lunch for work using my dry beef. Think of all the meal prep time you'll save when you have shelf-stable, ready-to-go meat right in your pantry. You'll also have one less pan to clean, and as you can see, your family will hardly know the difference. You'll want to start by using lean or extra lean ground beef with a fat content that's not more than 15%. This is because it's the fat and meat that can turn rancid as it reacts over time with oxygen, and you don't want that. Also, save those savory flavored beef drippings and stick them in the fridge where they'll harden into lard and bouillon, and then you can use them like vegetable oil. Next, rinse your beef using hot water, which removes more fat without taking away minerals or flavor. As the water drains into a bowl that you've placed below, you'll see that it's nearly translucent, which is another sign that you're removing most of the fat. Now, return it to the stove to boil for another 5 to 10 minutes. Boiling also helps to separate the fat from the meat. After final rinse, your ground beef is ready for the dehydrator. You'll absolutely want to use a fruit or a liquid tray to catch the small crumbles. And be sure not to overcrowd things so that you have sufficient airflow and everything dries evenly. Dehydrate at 145 degrees for about 6 to 8 hours. Here's the jar of drippings we tucked into the fridge yesterday, and as you can see, it's hardened into a top layer of lard and a bottom layer of bouillon that'll keep for 1 week. So I'm going to use this to make a beef fat fried potato scramble for breakfast, which is a one-pan Sunday breakfast that we love. Y'all, these drippings give it so much flavor. You'll end up with these beautifully crisp round bits that, when kept airtight, will keep your meat tender for over a year. Can you start to see why I'm a fan of dried ground beef? Next up are scalloped potatoes. Betty Crocker ain't got nothing on me these days because all she gives you is barely 2 cups of sliced potatoes and hardly a half cup of powdered cheese, charge you at least $2 a box for it, and then still ask you to bring your own milk and butter. Y'all, that's outrageous. Compared with home sliced potatoes, a quart-sized jar gives you almost 2.5 cups. And y'all, a larger and thicker sliced potato. Plus, I spent $2 for an entire 10-pound bag. You prepare them the same way as the packaged kind, but I bulk buy dehydrated cheeses from my Amish market, and this is a sour cream and cheddar cheese blend. Y'all, they come out so tender and taste wonderful at a fraction of the cost. Mixed vegetables are amazing. We're limited on freezer space in our townhome, so when I want to take advantage of frozen vegetable sales, I don't have to miss out anymore because I can bring them home, dump them on my dehydrator racks, come back in a few hours, and later on stuff several bags into one jar. Frozen veggies rehydrate so well, so if you're looking for an incredibly easy dehydration project, start with mixed vegetables. If you're a mushroom lover, you've got to try dehydrating them. Whether you need a little or a lot, dehydrated mushrooms are perfect for pizza toppings, thrown into soups, salads, casseroles, or other sides. They're ready within a few hours and taste delicious. I've shown you 3 dehydration recipes that make excellent meals in a jar. Take box dehydrated mashed potatoes, add an herb season blend, dry beef crumbles, powdered sour cream, and mushrooms for a just add water shepherd's pie. Another favorite is vegetable soup, and I just take box pasta that comes with a bouillon, add my veggies, mushrooms, and any other seasonings, and then remove the air using a brake bleeder. Then I take the jars and put a jar jacket on them, throw them in my work bag, and I keep a small fleet of jars on a shelf in my office. Now, I regularly pack my lunch, but these meals in a jar are added insurance in the event that I forget my lunch, or hey, I'm having a rushed morning, or a late evening at work. I love jar jackets because they are microwave, freezer, and dishwasher safe. They keep my hands protected as I hold the jar, and overall just make repurposing your jars if you want to use them on the go like I do incredibly convenient and safe. If you decide that silicone jar sleeves are for you, my 2 cents is that you avoid the ones that don't have any slits or holes. Why? You know how you have to shimmy into your nylons? I'm going somewhere with this, stick with me. Like you gotta stick your thumbs in the support top and scrunch all the way down to the heel toe just so you can inch things up your leg. It's the same thing if you get the solid ones. I mean, you'll have a heck of a time because you won't have anything to help you slide it up the jar. I'm just saying. The links to the ones that I'm using, which is by the brand Jar Jackets, is in the description box below, and I especially love these because they're interchangeable between regular and wide mouth jars. Look, around my house, everyone eats good, including our French bulldog Thor, and he is crazy over these Jerky Treats. Take a slightly frozen pork loin, which makes for easy slicing, and cut into uniform pieces. Then take healthy liquid aminos, a bit of molasses, and any other healthy spices like turmeric that you want to add. Place them on the dehydrator rack, and remember that these are for your pup, not you, because it's going to smell amazing. Quality dog treats are expensive, so switching to making my own has been a true savings. I promise I didn't dehydrate these just because they look pretty in the jar. I mean, I even have these things thrown in here and they're just... But for real though, you've got to start dehydrating your lemon and orange slices. While they're in season and at their lowest price, I grabbed some Meyer Lemons, which are naturally sweet. I enjoy tea and often tuck a few bags in my purse to have on hand when I'm out and about or at work. Having dehydrated lemons on hand barely takes up any space or weight, so I always have them on hand to add to water bottles or a cup of something. Oh, don't throw out the ends. You can make a wonderful smelling homemade vinegar cleaner with them. So put them in a jar, add vinegar, and then strain the peels out after a week and pour your scented vinegar into a spray bottle. You'll love it. don't forget about the strawberry powder.
Dehydrating strawberries is pretty straightforward. You evenly slice them and add them to your dehydrator racks. Don't toss your strawberry tops because you can make your own strawberry fruit scrap vinegar that will form a SCOBY just by adding filtered water and sugar. After your strawberries come out of the dehydrator, it will be tedious to remove them, but these are headed straight for the blender where I'll add them to my morning smoothies, and I'll show you that in a bit.
If you're a gardener or you keep houseplants and you're not dehydrating your banana peels, get on it.
I really enjoy slicing and freezing bananas to make our smoothies, but instead of tossing the peels into the compost, I've created a shelf-stable potassium fertilizer by cutting the peels and dehydrating them. I can use as much or as little as I want when I want.
Dehydrating greens is something I'm always doing.
Green goodness in the form of celery, kale, and broccoli blend into a wonderful powder that's ready to be snuck or tucked into a smoothie, soup, baked goods, or whatever else you can imagine. There's no reason to let greens from the grocery store or garden go to waste when they can be enjoyed in a green powder, which you'll overpay for pre-made mixes. Plus, this lets me make a smoothie in minutes with minimal mess. Speaking of starting your day off right, I still can't skip my morning cup of coffee. When I clean my French press, I toss the beans into a bag that I store into the fridge until I can get enough to run the dehydrator, which makes your home smell like a coffee shop. Then I have these ready to go for use in the garden. Other than your dehydrator, you'll need a food saver mason jar, jars, and new canning lids. Now, if you don't want to shell out $100 or more for one of the commercial vacuum sealer machines, or you want a non-electric option, it's also safe and easy to use a brake bleeder vacuum pump that you can pick up at AutoZone or Amazon around $35 or so. Place the Food Saver Mason Jar Sealer over the top of the jar and lid and push down to make sure it is completely and evenly seated. Then place the vacuum tip into the adapter. Next, pump the brake bleeder and watch the gauge. Pump until you have at least 20 psi in the vacuum. The higher the reading, the higher the vacuum. I usually go to 25. Between 20 and 25 psi, pull the vacuum tip out of the hole, then remove the jar sealer attachment from the jar. That's it. Your jar is sealed. I'm going to leave one of my favorite homesteading channels, Heidi from Rain Country's video below, which shares a detailed method. She's how I learned this.
Alright, so when it comes to what I am not going to dehydrate anytime soon, for me, y'all, it's going to be onions. And it's not because they didn't turn out great, it's managing the logistics of them. So running a dehydrator will fill your home with the ambient smells of whatever you're dehydrating. An onion, oh my goodness, it will just last in your home for days. So for a while, I was trying to manage the logistics of keeping my dehydrator outside. But you know, sometimes I have just too many things on my mind and I do not want to accidentally leave my dehydrator outside and all those things. So for right now, it's just not worth it. I can a lot of onion jams. I pickle my onions, so I always have them in that form. But in terms of going through the management of dehydrating my onions, I'm not gonna do it. It's cheap enough to find in powdered form and I don't necessarily need them like this. So for me, dehydrating onions is out. I'm also not gonna dehydrate cabbage again because y'all, it just doesn't come back to life. Plus, I make my own sauerkraut all of the time and we love that. I also love to can pickled purple cabbage slaw, which is delicious. It keeps its crunch. So I really don't feel like I'm losing anything by not having it in dehydrated form. I just, you know, it didn't really do anything for me. Next up is bananas. They lose their color, texture, and they have a meh taste, so not doing that again. So for me, strawberries in any other form than powder is something that I will not dehydrate. Now in powdered form, absolutely, because their flavor when they're mixed with a bit of sugar or honey really comes through. But in terms of keeping them sliced, which is what I had wanted to do because I thought that they would be perfect in my homemade cereals and granolas, they're just, I don't know, it's a lot of work and they rip and tear too easily. I also wanted to toss them into oatmeal, which I did before, but when they rehydrate, they just become way too mushy. So unless I'm kind of quickly slicing my strawberries, putting on, some sugar, and then not worrying as much about what they look like when they come off the tray. For me, I'm just gonna go ahead, blend them up, call them a day, and be done. And for that matter, I think that almost all berries lose their pizzazz when they're in the dehydrator, particularly like your raspberries and your blueberries, unless you go through several steps of prep where you have to like blanch them. I've heard of like poking holes in them. I got time for all that. I really like the dehydrated recipes where essentially I can just throw things, right on the rack and call it a day. So in terms of the payoff in taste and color and them not rehydrating in a way that's similar enough to what I'm anticipating, for me, berries are something that I really wanted to work out, but I'm not gonna go through the work of trying to perfect them because y'all know I love my jams. I love my jams, so I get plenty of preserved berry taste throughout the year. But in terms of them being dehydrated, nope, I'm either going to ferment them or can them. Don't forget to click the link to start getting candy recipes straight to your inbox. I'll see you in my kitchen or garden soon. Take care, friends.